Imagine a game where every move feels like magic. Today, we are diving into three games of Mikhail Tal, both stunning masterpieces. Get ready to witness pure chess brilliance. We all going to learn something today, that's for sure. For the first game, Mikhail Tal started the game with d4, knight to f6, and this is a Indian game. You have to play just g6, bishop here, castle. This is what have black in mind. c4, if you are playing the d4, you have to support your pawn like c4 to just get the space into the center. d6, and the next idea is e5 maybe, or just play the c5. There are multiple lines you can play. Knight to c3, just controlling more space in the center, and position just go into a Catalan system where the bishop is looking on a great diagonal. This bishop is looking in this great diagonal, and the next move is going to be the white to castle. Knight b d7, of course, developing the knight, and just king castled. So Mikhail Tal king is just castled, and now e5 is just knocking in the center. That's what's the idea of d6 is to play e5. Now you can take the pawn, you can push the pawn. Just Mikhail Tal say, look man, I'm not in the mood of taking and pushing. Just queen to c2. Maybe he just want to put the rook here, rook on d1. Maybe just after moving the bishop, he just want to play rook a to d1. There are multiple ideas. Rook to e8. So after this trade, the rook files is going to open. That's what Robert just predicting. And after rook to d1, that is the idea. That's why Mikhail just moved the queen to c2 and c6. Maybe the next idea is just to play this d5 setup, but pawn to b3 supporting the pawn that is on c4, and queen to c7. The same idea is Mikhail Tal putting his queen. And the idea is simple. You just want to move this bishop and put another rook here to make this battery, and you just want to straight open the position to just queen looking for the queen trade. e4, pushing another pawn and throwing a pawn in the center, because after pawn take you take with the knight, and if you're not going, maybe we can push. Even though a6 is just preventing any kind of stuff like b5, it's prevented. We are not going to play right now, but maybe in the future. Just taking the space on queen side. A bishop to a3. What is this move? Bishop a3 is what? If the queen move, the bishop is going to take this pawn, and also this move does the connectivity of rooks. The rook are connected now. c5 just wants to lock the position, and Mikhail Tal just takes the pawn on c5. Knight takes c5. This pawn taking on c5 considered is not good by the engine. What engine wants? Just to play the move pawn, take pawn like this. If knight take, you trade, and if rook trade, this is like not good. But if pawn take, the pawn is scattered, and your rook gets the activity on this open file. That doesn't happen in the game, by the way. After pawn take, he takes with the knight. Now you don't want to give up your good bishop for this knight. Now you can push the knight here to just attack the queen, the knight. And Mikhail Tal play b4, just kicking the knight. One knight move, pawn to c5. After pawn take pawn, he doesn't take the pawn back, because if you take this pawn, you're going to lose the material. That's why he just throw a knight to d5. What is knight to d5? Attacking the queen and the knight at the same time. Knight take knight, pawn take knight, oh, attacking the knight. So just pawn take, and now knight is under attack. You cannot take this. By the way, you can, because the bishop is hanging and your queen is hanging. So you can trade like this, but the knight says and your bishop hangs. That's what Robert have in mind. Mikhail to play the move queen to a4. What is this move? Queen to a4 is, if you take this bishop, you're going to lose your rook. That is just simple as that. And your knight is also hanging. That's why he just played bishop to d7. And now taking the rook is not going to be applicable. That's why he just take the pawn that is on b4 and pawn attack the queen. Pawn to a5. Dangerous level. The knight is hanging and your queen is hanging. What is more valuable piece? The queen or the knight? I think most of you are going to think the queen, and of course the queen is more valuable piece. In this position, Mikhail Tal says, "Take my queen." What you're going to do? Take my queen. And Robert is just out of the boundaries now. Why this move is working? Why this move is working? sacrificing the queen completely just for the knight. But we are not only going to get the knight, we are going to get the bishop, and it's with the tempo. You have to move the queen, and Robert moved the queen. That doesn't like by the engine. Engine says, sack your queen back. Motherfucker, what are you doing? It's Mikhail Tal. He is calculating 3,900 moves in the forward line. And rook to e8, just you hope so that this pawn doesn't queen, and now this bishop is hanging as well. You have to save this, but there are multiple lines. But queen to c3 is also a very devastating move. Attacks the bishop and also the rook. If you try to save the rook, you lose the bishop. And if you try to save the bishop, you lose the rook. So what you have to do, let everything die and pawn take, pawn check. Forking the rook, the king, and queen to f8, not considered good by the engine, but it is. And now pawn take, rook, queen check, king take, and now it's what? A rook that is an attack. You have to move, save this. If you move, you lose the rook, you lose the bishop. And the guys that play rook a to d1. Now he just saves the rook. But why doesn't you take this bishop? Because you lose the bishop. That's why back here like this check. Computer wants to go here. So after you make the queen and rook take the queen, and you just play. This is just a fork. How are you going to save? You just play this move. Just there is no way you're going to save the bishop. That's what computer want. But he's not a computer, right? Robert is not a computer. That's why he doesn't see that. And after this, rook to a d1, and now bishop is under attack. He played this move, bishop to f6, protecting. Mikhail also protect, and rook takes the pawn. Knight to g5, just throwing the knight into the position. Bishop doesn't take the knight because you are just completely losing then. This pawn is hanging. What you are going to do? Knight back to e4, attacking the bishop and also saving this pawn. Bishop to e7, disconnecting the rook from taking any pawn. Like you can take this, but this pawn is also looking great. But bishop to e7, disconnecting the lines, and Mikhail Tal play bishop take e7 anyway. He's sacrificing another piece, the rook. He sacrificed the queen and the rook. The rook take bishop and king take bishop check the king move, rook check d8 and king to g7. King doesn't have too much squares to run. Rook check again. You can't move, come forward. You have to go on to the back rank. And now h4, just protecting this bishop for the future. Now queen can sacrifice itself, but the bishop is just protecting that knight, so you don't want to do that. But what you want is just to check. He check and play rook to d1, attacking the rook. If you trade the rook, probably, maybe black wins, because this pawn is also looking great for just promoting, and three pieces versus queen is good, but these pieces are coordinated so well. Because I'll play knight to d6. What is knight to d6? You can take the pawn. Yeah, you can take the pawn. And now he throw the move bishop. What is this move? This is not even look possible. He play knight to f7 check. If you take this, we win the queen. But if you just move the king, guess what? We check first. This rook is hanging completely free. And king to f6, we take the rook now. Why? Because now if you are threatening to take this, you are going to lose the queen, and two bishops versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawn. Probably white going to win. If you are not on drugs, you're probably going to win this game. And also, Mikhail Tal opponents find this line and just hang the queen, sack the queen for this, and play this move. And now the knight, even though protected, knight bishop saves the promotion. Like promotion square is just saved by the bishop. And just promote, take, take this, and just take. Mikhail Tal opponent designed the game because that you can take this, but your bishop or your pawns is hanging, and your game is hanging complete disaster. For this game, Mikhail are going to play as black pieces against Dmitry Rovner. Dmitry starts the game with classic e4 and Mikhail Tal responds with e6, the French defense. Have you ever seen Mikhail Tal playing French defense? If no, this going to be interesting. He loves to play the Sicilian. He's a Sicilian master, but in this game he plays French. And d4 just takes the center with d5. You can push the pawn. You can take the pawn, exchange, and of course advanced variation. Knight to d2 is a terrash variation. Dimitri choosing this line is just knight to r6, taking the center, knight, pawn kick the knight, knight go to d7, and this knight may be going to develop on here. This bishop is feeling like a stuck stepsister. Maybe his brother is going to help her, but bishop to d3, looking on a great diagonal. After the king castle, you can create some attack on king c5, just throwing the pawn, maybe hoping that opponent is just going to take. If he takes, just slap him, but no, c3, and now you can don't want to take because you just give your opponent a great center. This knight jump, knight to c6 is make that move possible. So after pawn take, knight takes. This is what uh, Miguel does have in mind, and knight to e2, of course, saving that pawn. Knight, you can take the pawn, but queen to b6, preparing that trade. So after knight take, queen take. This knight is not moved, and our king is not here. So bishop take, pawn is not going to check. So we are not going to lose our queen. Knight to f3, protecting that pawn. Again, c take, d4, pawn take pawn, and now f6, pawn take pawn, knight take pawn, and castle. Now Dimitri castle is king. Mikhail Tal also wants, that's why he just moved the bishop. And now the next move is going to castle, and knight c3 is what? Knight c3 is nothing, just developing the knight. You just make this knight in like thousands of moves, and now this is developed on the natural square, looking great. Squares in the positions. Now you can jump with this move, but just knight take, and after this bishop take. So you had to play rook to rook to e1 first. Castle, rook e1, just look preparing that move. Also knight jump, bishop to d7, and now knight to b5, attacking this dark square bishop. Bishop move to b8, knight go back, bishop go back, and now I think Mikhail are just offering a draw. So now you can repeat this position 3 times and make a 3-4 repetition draw. Dimitri doesn't want. Dimitri doesn't want to draw. That's why he played bishop to g5, rook to e8, protecting this pawn, because this is going to be a big weakness in black's position, right? And the move rook to e2 is considered as a not a good move, because now what we can do is jump the knight to g4. This bishop is looking after this pawn, and there are multiple weaknesses in white position. First up, you can't kick the knight. You can't kick the knight. If Mikhail have the opportunity, he's going to sacrifice the rooks, and rook take knight, and now you have 2 pieces hanging. You can take the knight. You can take. So as a normal player and a normal human being, you are going to look the rook worth more than the knight. So of course we are going to take the knight. Yeah, knight to h2, just planting the knight into the position. Now you can push this pawn to disconnect everything, but this h6 is so powerful. You have to go back and you lose the pawn. That's why you can't do that. That's why Dmitry played the king to d2, just protecting this pawn. And now Mikhail will throw another knight into the position, knight to d4, attacking the, of course, rook and the pawn. Now Dmitry chose to play rook to e3, protecting the pawn. You can take, but he's going to sack the rook for 2 knights. This is completely normal, and it's a draw. Mikhail doesn't want to do that. And now pawn to h6, bishop goes back to h4, and he play bishop to f4 attacking the rook. Dimitri playing danger level. If you take my rook, I'm going to take your rook. And Mikhail Tal say, look man, your rook worth more than my rook. I'm going to take your rook. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. And after pawn take what? He doesn't take this because he just attack the rook. That's why he takes the rook. And now you can take this bishop, but this bishop is also going to hang. That's why Mikhail choose to play knight takes f3, hanging a bishop. By the way, he's not hanging because after bishop take bishop, you take this bishop with a check. King move to f1, and now Mikhail Tal play the move queen take b2. Dimitri designed the game, and now you can think why this is completely normal. The two knights and a bishop. I have a knight and a rook for that, and the queen for the queen. Why this is a losing position? Because the knight is hanging, the rook is hanging. Why rook is hanging? This is checkmate. How are you going to defend? Oh, by just taking the bishop. Yeah, you can take the bishop if there is no checkmate. Like queen to g2 check and king move. Now you throw the knight into the position. Knight f3 check. You have to sack the queen, and after knight take the queen, king move, and it is just checkmate. This is the fall of moves. And what if you doesn't do that at all? Like here, after queen take pawn, you just play knight to this, you lose the knight. And what if you take, you lose this rook. Mikhail Tal play against Janis Wisowski. 1969 is not a birth year of Janis, but it's the, of course, rating. Mikhail Tal started that game with d4 and another King's Indian defense. And after some moves, Mikhail Tal chose to close the position and knight to e8 going back. And the idea is simple. You want to throw the pawn in the center, and that's what happened in the game. You can go here to trade this, but Mikhail Tal is just looking for forward and just castle the king to long castle. f4 is just a attacking on the bishop move, and now we develops the knight and protect the pawn. And the g5 comes. The idea is simple. g4 and this, and Janice has developed another piece, and yep, bishop develops, and now he play this move c5. c5 is what? It's a n%. If you didn't doing it, it's a draw probably, because after this you play this move and the position gets closed, and you can move any piece, but it's not going to be winning for any of the sides. This is complete draws. It doesn't happen in the game, by the way, but if because it's an n%, if you have it, you have to do, it's a force move. So n%, and you can take with the bishop, but Janice take with the pawn. So just open the lines for the rooks and attack the king. And now the king is going to be in big danger, but you are playing Mikhail Tal. Uh, Pawn to c5, attacking the knight and the pawn. Knight go back, pawn take pawn, knight take pawn, bishop pin the knight to the rook. Rook protect itself. Bishop develop, connecting the rooks, and queen to c7. Look at this, one, two. Three pieces attacking the knight, and one, two, three are protecting. So this knight is not going to die. But if you move this knight, the bishop is going to die. That's for sure. And knight to b3 and bishop move. That's why now we can move this bishop as this knight as well. We can win the game. Doesn't happen in the game absolutely. And knight to d5 doesn't like by the engine, but it's a complete sacrifice. And why? What computer wants? Computer want to play knight to a4, throwing the knight into the corner of the board. And what's the follow-up? I don't know, but maybe something. But because the play knight to d5 is just a sacrifice. But if you takes the knight and queen there at the entry, you can block with the bishop, you can block with the knight. Blocking with the knight is a great move, because after queen takes the rook, you doesn't even see that move, right? Many of you doesn't even see the threat that the rook is hanging, complete hanging, and you just play the move bishop to c6, and now queen is trapped. Queen is trapped, have no squares to go out, but you cannot attack this like this, because two knights looking after this, and knight take bishop, you are going to lose the queen. So now the only rule just saves the game is bishop to b6, and the queen is under attack. You can take my queen, I'm going to take your queen. Knight can't take, it's pin. And if you queen take bishop, you lose the knight with a check. Doesn't And that's why the only move that saves the day is a take b6. Now coming back with the queen is not the style of Mikhail Tal. He play rook to c1, pinning the bishop to the queen. Bishop takes the queen, rook takes the queen, offering a rook trade. Another rook gets the entry, and after rook take rook, nice develop, and knight to d2, opposing this knight. You can jump here because the bishop is protecting this diagonal, so you there is no entry in my position. Miguel says, and bishop to f8 is protecting the knight, and you can take this, but the knight going to get the great entry and looking some pawns, weak pawns in the position, and b5 attacking the bishop, bishop to bishop e6, and king g7 unpinning the, of course, knight. Uh, Pawn to a4. Dennis doesn't just ignore this threat after pawn to pawn and just attack the bishop. Bishop takes the knight, knight takes knight, and now pawn takes b5. This pawn is a hero of this game because after bishop attack the knight, knight jumps into the body, and now g4, rook attack the bishop, and Janice say takes my bishop. Because if you take the bishop, this pawn is going to be unstoppable and it's going to be promoted to the queen, and it's a check as well, so you're going to lose the game on the spot. Doesn't ever the game. Mikhailta just see the threat and just play pawn takes pawn. And Janice, I don't know why, but just play bishop take pawn. And now after this, I think he's might thinking, just this is a outside pass pawn. Nothing can stop. But this is also a outside pass pawn. So after pawn to b6, bishop pins the pawn to the rook. Rook to a6, knight comes to the party, knight e6. The idea, if you push, there is some ways we can protect the square. Absolutely not. You can't. Why? You can't. The knight is pinned to the king, and bishop have no way to stop the promotion. Your your pawn is outside pass pawn, but it's not fast enough. It's not fast enough, and you have nothing to do. You have nothing. You can't stop this, and this is going to be a quit, and that's why Janice resigns the game on the spot. I hope you love this game. If you love this, just give me a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing the next video. Until then, goodbye.